Hello and welcome to Brew Crew. I'm Jacob and I'll be hosting today's episode, and I'm joined by Evan, Nate, Owen, Jacob, and we have a guest appearance by Sam.
What's up?
Yeah, how's everybody's doing?
I'm doing good. It should be noted the Evan and Owen are in quotes at the moment. They'll probably be joining us momentarily.
in true Brew Crew fashion.
Yeah.
Like usual.
But so happy to have Sam here in their stead.
Oh, yeah. Long time friend of the pod. We mentioned him actually in the previous pod or the previous podcast. And,
or the previous.
Good friend from Juniata. So
yeah,
we're happy to have him on today.
As am I, very happy to be here. This is a good group and excellent conversations all around.
Oh, you're making us blush.
See, we have at least one listener, Mom.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Anyways, yeah, so Jacob is going to bring us into an interesting topic. But because we do have another listener on the show, we do get to do something really fun. Jacob Novak, what is that?
Well, for the first time in like 13 episodes, we get to do First Impressions.
I didn't quite catch that.
It sounds easy to everyone else.
That was so great.
Oh,
God.
That was from episode 5.
Episode 5. And was that
all your Brew Crew super fans out there?
Who was the last first impression on the show?
It was Jacob Lador, actually. I think we did a
really?
double. We did Owen,
right.
And then we did you because I just clipped that out today, and so I know the full context. Because we had just had consecutive Brew Crew episodes for the first time, and we were sad that we weren't going to be able to do one for like another month because we were going on break, and so we did 2 first impressions to make up for it.
That was solid. Those were the days.
Nice.
Yeah.
Those were the days. 2018, I think. The end of it, right?
Yeah, that was the end of 2018.
Wow.
Man, think of how excited we were to do consecutive Brew Crews then, and now we're just on a roll.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyways, first impressions. Sam, let's just get into it. How about we do let's talk about the people who aren't here so that they get to miss out because it's their fault for not being here.
I like that.
So what about your first impressions of Sir Evan Quinter?
Sir Evan Quinter. As best I can recall, Evan was first known to me as one of our little cohort of freshman year Frisbee enthusiasts. And would have gotten to know Evan a little bit, although honestly not very thoroughly until much more later. But at the time it was, wow, look, there's a tall guy we can throw to. This is fantastic. And
except he didn't have any hops.
Okay, let's be honest. He didn't need the hops. Like 7 feet tall.
Yeah. But so I mean that would have been the first environment in which I acted much with him.
He's not here, so you can talk shit on him all you want, you know?
Well,
it's not like this is being recorded or anything.
Yes. Fair enough. But no, honestly, I have never had since the beginning through now anything but pleasant interactions with Evan. He's always from the go seemed like an outgoing and bright and happy and lovely individual to be interacting with.
Oh, and here he is.
Wow.
Just on cue. Look at that.
Hello. I'm here. I'm so sorry.
Hello.
Evan, we were just doing first impressions with Sam, and he's talking about his first impressions of you.
Oh my god, great timing. Also,
talking about
Sam.
how you're trash.
Hey.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yep.
Of course. Absolutely.
Wow. That was really funny. Yeah, he's wrapping up you right now.
Yeah. I mean, mostly I think really it's probably senior year when I got to know Evan better, really. And
Agreed.
Inquire and all. Much more interaction. And really he was one of a number of you all and others who were very welcoming to me in that environment and has been a joy to know since.
Now, this is jumping ahead
Mhm.
to me, but do you remember when I saw you like signed up in Swigert and we were doing tour guide training and I just went up to you and I was like
Yes.
so pumped. I was like, dude, you're auditioning?
I do remember that. We were standing outside of Ellis waiting for the morning tour organization to kick off. And you're like, hey, so I see you're signed up for choir.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that was a wild summer. Not because of that, because of tour guiding all year.
Yeah.
Just the thought of us just standing out in front of Ellis waiting for the mob of young preteens. I guess not preteens, but young teens.
Yeah.
What were you doing, Jacob?
Yeah.
He was outside of the ECEC.
Exactly. Prospective ECEC.
Waiting for the toddlers to come in. No, but really, Juniata, though, they're looking for everyone, preteens included.
Yeah. Similarly to the story with Evan, that was the beginning of the year, during which I happily came to know Jacob better than I had before. When in freshman year in Sherwood, I was across the hall from
That's right.
Charlie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't remember many interactions. We were both horribly quiet freshmen at the time.
Yeah. And I had forgotten that because I mostly blocked out my memory of living in Sherwood because I was just in Sunderland all the time.
Okay.
Because that's where everyone else was.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do remember that, yeah.
Indeed. Yeah.
I also remember being in band with you, and I was like, man, that guy's really good.
Oh. That's lovely. But yeah, I was certainly, as Nate can attest, and yourself as well, and I suppose Jacob as well, that we all came into Juniata Band, and whether or not we improved or declined over its courses.
That's right. There's no improvement, but probably a slight decline. But that's the power of being in the Juniata, the premier wind ensemble.
Yes.
So
but then
wonderful group.
We improved by dividends once we were all in the jazz ensemble together.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yes. And the orchestra.
Yeah, and orchestra.
Oh, and the orchestra. That's right. Oh, good memories. Good memories. Now, Sam, what was that overture that we played? What was that kind of? I forget. Was it Beethoven's Fifth?
It was either the fifth or the ninth. I forget which. And
okay, but it was Beethoven piece, right?
Yes, it was.
Okay, so do you remember? As trumpet players, it was just the two of us who were playing trumpet, and everyone had to be like super quiet, and we could just be bombastic and be as loud as we wanted and stuff. Do you remember that?
Oh, absolutely. We spent
it was literally
most of the time counting,
dream.
and then
it was a trumpet's dream. And thank you so much. I mean, I lost count after the second bar, counting to 4 2 times in a row. And we'd have to do that 150 times before coming in and play 5 notes.
Yeah.
And Sam, you were a hell of a counter, if I have to say.
Thank you. I admit that there was a fair part of it for which I would simply look right next to us to Jacob's stand to see his entrance most proximal to ours. And
that's right. That's right.
Whatever
that's
works.
Probably most of what we did in orchestra because brass didn't play that often, and so we would just be kind of like, if we lost count, just side eye and see what everybody else is doing.
Yep.
Yep. You could always rely on a good anticipatory look and cue from Dr. O'Brien too, which leads us pretty readily into my first impressions of His Excellency the Grand Rutabaga. We've gotten to know only in senior year as well, having come both of us back from abroad, I suppose.
Yeah.
And myself sitting in bands next to somebody new, which was great to have another person there. I mean, I wasn't all that familiar with my fellow trumpets theretofore.
Right.
Sure.
First impressions wise, Nate immediately strikes you as a goofy with serious undertones where necessary, in a nice balance. But that's what you need to survive that together.
That's a very good description of Nate.
Yeah, that's the nicest thing anyone's ever said.
Goofy with serious undertones when needed.
I love that. That's literally the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me.
I think knowing you and the experiences thereafter bear that out, though. And
that's right.
I mean, I found very quickly in just that 1 year that we were at school together, we found a lot of stuff in common and good points of relation, and just sort of like, crap, we've only overlapped for this short amount of time, but
right,
made the most of it. I think it was excellent.
Yeah. And we get to extend our friendship because we live in the same town now, outside of college.
Exactly.
So that's awesome.
Making this whole pandemic business a hell of a lot more pleasant.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Having someone to go hike with or something.
Right. We've been hiking and doing a lot of really neat things out around here in State College. It's been quite a relief. So
absolutely.
Before we move on to Jacob Latour, I do notice that we have Owen in the call potentially.
Okay.
Catching you up to speed, we're just doing some first impressions with Sam.
Oh shit, Sam!
Yeah, hey, how's it
Talk
going?
to me, brother.
Yeah, I have a fairly vivid recollection of my first encounter with and impression of Owen when we were both. It must have been the summer before we all started at Juniata. Owen and I independently happened to go down to watch a tennis match. We were both interested in playing. And it was there that we encountered one another. And I remember a sort of enveloping, sturdy handshake and accompanying good, nice personality right off the bat. It was very evident.
That makes sense, yeah.
Has been enduringly the case. I remember him asking, "Where are you from?" I was like, "Oh, I'm from State College." And his response was, "Oh, so are you transferring in then?" And then his mother said, "Nearby." Which there was no reason he should have known that, but it has amused me since. And I don't remember who the team would have been playing against, but that was the era of and the Our Swamp signs, and it was a good little moment there that has, since that freshman year, Owen and I both played tennis, and I got to know him chiefly through that, I think, and found, as he has observed a number of times since, that it seems that we tend to approach a lot of things in fairly similar ways, even though our interests and backgrounds are somewhat different than one another. We have an underlying series of similarities which is nice.
Yeah, I remember that, Sam. On those courts don't exist anymore. It's now an art.
Yeah.
Court, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
you're right. It was those.
Shout out to the arts.
And yeah, the arts. Hey, listen, if you're thinking about the arts,
why?
Pick something else. God damn it.
It's like Bo Burnham's advice for people who want to be comedians. He's just like, give up.
He doesn't want any competition. But first thing, also, I'll just give you a little. Sam and I have kind of figured out over the years that we definitely, I think maybe we were brought up similarly, or we just have similar personalities, but we tend to think of things. We tend to process things in a similar way, and we have some overlapping interests, but I feel like we've got a wavelength that we connect on, you know?
Yeah, I've always found it's very easy to have good conversations with you, Owen, that don't get caught up in surface level. Back to your whole small talk conversation from earlier, it's easier to get to more in-depth, more interesting stuff.
A real fan.
Someone just listened to our small talk episode.
Yeah, I was just about to say
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boy, that never happens. That's awesome.
Yeah,
We have fans.
inform myself. Yeah, good
Nice.
stuff.
Well, what do you think of Mr. Latour?
Mr. Latour,
Mm.
similar to my initial
Some call
encounter.
him Jacob too.
Bear nice.
Jacob
Right
one. Yes. But yeah, I think Jacob, you would have been one of those people I got to know through Frisbee as well, freshman year.
Mhm.
At which point, it seemed to many of us in that group were enthusiastic and knew a little bit. And I think I can't speak for others there, but from my perspective at least, you seemed to be one of us who really knew what he was doing and had a heck of an arm on him and could really sort of lead the way a little bit in that environment, which was neat to see. And I mean, I think we both have a similar sort of quietness on the Frisbee field to a degree,
Mhm.
which I don't know when really I would have had a significant conversation with you in those early years, but certainly later and throughout that, I grew to know you better, and that's been an excellent thing. I mean,
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, definitely, I think for a lot of us, like, we started talking much more around our senior year. I don't know
Yeah.
if that was just because our friend group finally solidified by then.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that could have been it. Yeah.
Now, Sam, he is not here. Actually, I don't think we've talked about his whole deal at the moment, but I am curious to hear your first impressions with Harry, because I know your history with him goes back much further than with any of us.
Absolutely.
Goes back much further. Yeah, I have pretty good memories of my first time that I can remember interacting with Harry. My parents and theirs will tell you that we were sledding together as very small children, but I don't recall that exactly. But probably when we were maybe 7, 8, 9, somewhere in there. We were at one of our longtime friends has a big farm out by Huntington, and we'd always have like the summer solstice, have a bunch of people over there, or whatever other cause for outdoor revelry we could find. But as kids, one of the things we would often do was some sort of mashup between sword fighting with sticks and capture the flag, sort of, and just an excuse to run around and whack one another. But
nice.
Yeah, it was entertaining.
The dream.
Yes, at that stage, absolutely. I remember the first time I recall encountering Harry. I had become captured in the course of that game and was bemoaning my side's ineptitude getting me out of it. And then here came this new freckled young kid who I was aware that he was Harry, but I didn't really know what that meant. So I was excited. Oh, all right, here's a chance to sort of turn the tide. And it was not many minutes later when another of our younger friends, armed with a PVC pipe, maybe twice his own height, caught Harry right in the neck and left a serious welt and just this ringed impression for I don't know how long, but it was a vivid impression of Harry's person at the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, who among us hasn't wanted to do that to Harry?
Yeah. That doesn't really speak to my getting to know him particularly, which would have happened later. When we both went down to Guatemala a couple summers before I started at Juniata, and we got to know him there. We were interacting with kids at one of the schools, and he was very, very warm and just another bright and caring personality, which is something that has over time just been emphasized over and again. That he is a very genuine and thoughtful person in the best of ways, with an appreciable layer of goofiness himself as well. It's magnetic to a degree, and no end of entertainment.
Very nice. Man, Sam, you're good with words and stuff.
I try not to stumble over them.
It's a nice
Boy,
change.
you talk pretty good.
You do talk
Yeah,
good.
Burr.
Here on the Brew Crew, we don't talk that good.
You got a real purty mouth.
Indeed.
All right. Do you have anything of note for Xander or Evan Brock?
R.I.P.
Yeah.
By
Yeah.
the way.
Evan Brock, my earliest and most significant encounter with him, though I've had some brief and interesting conversations with him since, was when the two of us were being Harry's Speedo bedecked backup dancers for his Mr.
Oh, that's
Juniata.
right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And Evan was a great person to sort of make light of the ridiculousness of it all, and we were all just comfortable because what else was there to do? And it was a nice time, I suppose. It was amusing, and he was good to get to know in that context, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Xander, I'm not certain, but I like as not I would have met him out at Harry's house at the lake as just another one of that gang who had good company and was nice and outgoing. And similarly, haven't interacted a whole heck of a lot with him, at least in the recent past. But yeah.
Well, that dare I say, that's some of the best first impressions we've ever gotten on the Brew Crew.
Oh, by far.
Absolutely.
By far.
Glad.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
we're
sure thing.
Show.
It's a
That's
fun
the
exercise.
show.
Yeah, so happy to have you here, especially with what Jacob will bring us into a very existential conversation.
Indeed.
Which I hope I don't butcher. So my question is very relevant to what's happening with the rollout of the COVID vaccine, but it's about what determines a person's worth in society. And yeah, so yeah, like I was saying, it's related to the rollout of the COVID vaccine and determining who actually gets it first. And I know most of it's based on who is immunocompromised, but then after that, it's determined who is considered essential within our society. And I know it's not the best comparison, but have any of you heard of the God Committee?
I know the term.
I
You mean
haven't
like
heard of it.
from?
I
You mean
looked
like
it up
from
real
the
quick.
Good Place?
That's what I was saying.
No, so the God Committee was created in 1961, and it was for the purpose of determining who would receive hemodialysis. So this was for people that had kidney failure and would otherwise die because their blood wouldn't be able to be filtered by their kidneys. So 1960s, these hemodialysis machines were created, and they're insanely astronomically expensive. So very few people could even receive the treatment. But in 1960, a Teflon shunt actually was developed by the University of Washington, and it made it super easy for people to actually receive treatment. The only problem was there still wasn't enough machines to treat so many candidates. So what the Swedish hospital did was create this God Committee. It was actually called the Admissions and Policies Committee of the Seattle Artificial Kidney Center at Swedish Hospital. And it was this group of seven citizens that I think they included a lawyer, banker, minister, housewife, state government official, labor leader, and surgeon. And it's supposed to encompass all different people across society. And their sole purpose was to determine who got treated by this hemodialysis machine. And basically, if you didn't get treated, then you die.
Jesus.
Now this
Yeah,
is
so
1960.
So all of these people were white. Yeah, it was implied. So I actually listened to an awesome podcast about it, and sorry, I keep on plugging in This American Life.
Hey,
They talked about it, but there's a couple articles online that just describe what happened in the committee, and the entire purpose of it was to determine who was most beneficial to society and basically who would be allowed to live. And this committee was created so that the doctors who are treating these patients didn't have to make these difficult and hard decisions. And what ended up happening is the members drew up all these different factors to weigh in who was worthy of getting this dialysis treatment. And it included things such as like sex, age, marital status, how many children they had, their net worth, income, and also like educational background, among many other things, just to determine how important they were and whether or not they're worth saving.
So this was a study?
No, this wasn't a study. It was a committee that actually chose who got treated and who didn't.
Would this be like a committee, kind of like a far out committee, like something that wasn't known to the public, or just, you know what I'm trying to get at?
Yeah,
This
yeah.
wasn't like mainstream.
Closed doors.
No, it
Yeah.
was known to the public, but the members' identities were protected.
So how do we know it wasn't just like a conspiracy?
Yeah, I was gonna say, what's the authority behind the government?
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
it was
Illuminati.
actually selected
The
by
Denver airport.
the King County Medical Society, and it was professionally done and was made just for the purpose of trying to get doctors to not make these decisions, but another body altogether.
Huh.
And
Well-
it's pretty terrible because
Yeah.
it was saying who was worth in society and who wasn't. And
But- But that doesn't make sense to me that they would be using the word society, because doesn't that just mean it's made up of a bunch of people who are like working together?
so I mean, it was done so that it was all different people in different tiers of
Like a hierarchy, we're
society
trying
is.
to determine who's better.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's all of these different ethical issues arose from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there connections to what? See, this is far fetched, but are there connections? Are you trying to make connections to how like the COVID vaccine is being distributed, or is that does that not have any connection to this conversation?
So that is actually one of the connections I'm bringing up. Just that with the COVID vaccine, how are we determining who's an essential worker and who's actually worthy of getting a vaccine? Because for myself, I got the vaccine, and I don't consider myself to have been essential over somebody else. I do find it unfair, and that's kind of what I'm trying to bring up, and
Yeah.
how our society, not government bodies, but how our own society determines who is important.
Now, I don't know if this is something that crossed your mind, but a couple weeks ago when you sent this conversation topic to us in our group chat, I thought, I wonder if he realizes that that's basically the entire catalyst of the Y-Men.
Shameless plug. Go
Oh
watch.
no, that's the thing, is because that's something that's like constantly in my mind. Not constantly, but you know what I mean.
Right.
There's a scene, and actually Evan can speak to this. So actually, let me go back further. I was writing the script in fall of 2018, and I had just shown Evan a version of the script that included a scene where the main character, played by Xander, who is like an up and coming studying journalism person, with his friend who is trying to become a doctor. with a prospective student who just kind of like doesn't want to talk about the journalism part whatsoever. And Evan was like, "Does that really happen?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, that it kind of happens all the time. And I'm not bitter about it, but it's just something that I can't help but notice that no one tends to want to talk about the things that I want to do." And so when Evan and I were in, it was Delaware, with an orchestra singing "Requiem for the Living" by Dan Forrest, great piece, and these lovely older women came up to us and were like, "Oh, we're so happy that you're here. I hope that this is a good experience for you guys." And then they asked us what we were studying, and I was like, "Oh, I'm doing like media writing and video stuff and stuff like that." And they were like, "Oh, cool. And you're doing marine bio, Evan? Oh, that's so good." And then they talked to you for like another 15 minutes, and then at the end of that conversation, you're like, "Oh, okay, I get it." And again, it's not something that I'm bitter about, but it's this conversation of what is my place in society is something that is in my head. And so when you mention us talking about this, I'm like, man, I don't think I matter at all. And that's fine.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
Well, no, like if I'm just making videos, I'm low on the list, and I just have to accept that,
But that's not just you. Your job isn't just like your job isn't describing just you. It's not binding to you yet. So like what you bring to society and what you bring to your friends and your family and to the people around you in the society is so much more powerful than just what you consider your job is or what you consider your career is. Because I mean, that's so true because we're social people, right? Like everything that you've contributed to us in our group in college, that's like you have to reevaluate your self-worth because you've created such an environment that's so much more powerful than what you think.
Trying to evaluate the societal impact and significance of any one individual entails an examination of so many factors and branching pathways and possibilities and interactions that
Sure.
it becomes the case that it's just really, really hard to start drawing lines through things. And then when you do that, in the situations where you're forced to do that, it oftentimes feels like this, and is a really sticky ethical dilemma where it comes down at some stage to some sort of arbitrary delineation and cutoff and ranking, and what is the basis for that and how can it be justified?
Hey, I just wanted to say one thing just before I leave. So I actually think, Jacob, your evaluation, I'm not sure that it's depressing or bad to kind of think of yourself as being lower down on the list of the vaccine rollout. And actually, I mean, that's kind of the question that we've been asking ourselves as a society anyways, is that, some people are going to have to wait. And we've learned that turns out in a pandemic, the garbage collectors, the waitresses and waiters, the people and teachers, and, these are actually the essential workers, and I don't think it's kind of a demerit on character to be conscious of that. And if anything, I think it speaks for your selflessness. I think it's actually a good thing. And it's interesting too with the vaccine rollout. We will be eventually there will be a point where there is plenty of vaccine to go around. Whether that's later this year or even next. I mean, that's just inevitable given the ramping up of production. So this is certainly a temporary problem, but it does offer this kind of interesting society. And I think if a lot more people had a more selfless, introspective look, it might be little bit easier to figure out those ethics, who gets and who doesn't. Because I think a lot more people would be accepting of waiting or knowing that they really do. If you're an immunocompromised COVID-facing doctor, you probably should be getting it.
Sure.
I think there are easy answers, and there are difficult. There are ones that come from more difficult questions. But if more people kind of had that thought of, well, maybe my spot isn't quite up there, I think actually it would make it a lot easier, the overall rollout.
Sure. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of my thinking. But I am gonna go back to work,
Oh, now I
doing those tests. So
Right.
enjoy the rest of the
Yeah.
podcast, boys, and
Thanks for hopping on.
Thanks, so.
and
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I can't wait to hear
Okay,
the rest of
briefly.
the discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, of
I
course.
want to add on. I want to add on to what Owen said. So previously in the conversation,
Missed what I said.
what I was talking about was when you were talking about your self-worth or your societal worth, I wasn't putting that into factoring with the vaccine. So like when we add the vaccine portion, I completely agree with Owen that young people who are relatively healthy are going to be further back in that line, right? And so I absolutely agree with that. What I wanted to do earlier was defend your self-worth and defend and show you that you are so much more than just this video, just your job, right?
And I should clarify. I didn't mean for that to be as depressing as it came off.
Right.
I do want to clarify. Like, obviously, in terms of your place in society, generally speaking, it does have a lot to do with your place in the community and how you interact with your family and your friends and everything like that. Right. And whoever needs to hear this, like you do matter. Everybody matters.
That's what we're trying to get at.
Where I'm coming from is just in terms of the product that I put out into the world. Whether it is like my informational videos about some corporate product, or if it is something like not to sound pretentious, artsy that I'm putting out into the world, I do think art is important in getting that out into the world and having people think about things or keeping people entertained, whatever the art is that you're producing, whatever that intention is. But it is just recognizing the difference between what you're doing and what people like doctors interacting with immunocompromised people or teachers or what have you. It is important to make that distinction in this specific case.
It's the impact that you make is what is sort of a value that you add. In a previous conversation we had, a previous podcast, we were talking about what our sort of dream place would be, and you said it specifically. You said it very nicely in that, I'm going to create content, and if that content moves someone, if that content touches someone, if that content does something more than just be an entertainment, then I've done something for the people around me or for the viewers. And that's exactly what we do as artists, and that's what we strive to do, right?
Yeah, and that's enough for me, like it'd be great to have millions of viewers for something that I make, but if I can make a couple people laugh or think about something or just be moved, then that's a success to me. So right. Not to make it all about me or anything. I didn't mean to do that. I just wanted to kind of, because it is something that maybe was depressing to me earlier in life, but not so much anymore, and just something that is in my mind regarding these kinds of things.
Right, because you're no longer valuing yourself by comparison, which maybe is sort of an immature thing, right? And that is what we all maybe experience early on, right? We compare ourselves. We start that at an early age. So maybe in your early artistic career, you valued yourself based on how well other people did or how many views other people got, right?
Yeah.
And once you grow past that, that's when you find out who you are and what you can create. But to continue the conversation further, what I think is so interesting about the COVID vaccine itself is that the essential workers who are supposed to be getting this vaccine first, but besides senior citizens, um, before COVID, those essential workers did not have that title. They weren't deemed essential. Nor were they deemed the highest people in society, right? And so that brings an interesting question, because usually when evaluating like people's worth, it's usually like a physical asset like money, right? Or possessions, or even how somebody looks, right? And that's interesting to say somebody who's going to get this a pandemic ending vaccine first is somebody we wouldn't necessarily right off the bat put it in that category of having a lot of physical assets, right?
Right.
Mhm.
It's the whole the city starves without the farm idea. That these
Yes.
segments of the population are so often overlooked by people who have quote, bigger and better things to be doing. And then in a time like this, you come to realize and appreciate the necessary contributions.
Right. Right.
Nate, I would even take it one step further in that it's not just the members of our society that serve the most essential functions or what keeps our society going, but it's the people that are most at risk. So that touches on what you mentioned with senior citizens, but it also, impacts the homeless community.
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
People in prisons, people that are in immigration camps, people that people that are living in impacted housing. I mean, like there are people that are at serious risk right now that have incredible worth
Right.
in society,
Mhm.
but just that they are not working in an essential function right now doesn't mean that they shouldn't be at the top of the list.
Exactly. Especially because a lot of those folks can be in even more susceptible situations for the virus.
Exactly. Yep.
That's a very good point, and that's really, really important that you bring that up, because that can get lost in a lot of conversations.
Here's my question to you then. Are you, like, when we, in 2023, when we come out of this pandemic,
Mhm.
do you think that this value that we've now given to the people that are essential and that people that deserve our respect on a daily basis, do you believe that this is going to stick?
No, absolutely not.
That's a good question.
Unfortunately,
Yeah, sadly,
it
no.
It won't. It just won't, because right now, okay, this is me speaking off the top of my head without doing any research and being very biased, right? I'm just putting that out there right now. But I think the reason that these people are deemed essential is because they make other people a lot of money. That's the only reason they're deemed essential. Yes, we need to get our food, but those stores and those big chains, they go bankrupt. They go out of business without these people working, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like I don't know what the term is, but it's when like big corporations will reactionarily, there's the new word for the podcast, reactionarily make amends or donate money to something because one of their employees did this. It's the kind of thing where I think the value is placed on these essential workers. Some of them rightly so. I mean, most of them rightly so. But not because their bosses or the corporations deem them essential, but because they need to for the moment, for PR, basically.
Right. They're valued rightly so, but is it for the right reasons?
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
is it just
Exactly.
self-interested sympathy?
And we'll find that
Almost.
out here real shortly once this pandemic's over. I mean, we'll
Yep.
absolutely see it, right?
Mhm.
And that brings up another really interesting point, and this kind of is again another road away from exactly the talking point we have, but it brings up the point of the government giving out money. Like, is the amount of money they're giving out enough? No. Are they giving out money so that they can continue to get people to vote for them? Maybe. Are they giving out money so that people like the government better or like the specific party better? Maybe. Right? It's like, I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah,
It's very interesting.
I mean, that all, like, talking about that, and I get like the talks around raising minimum wage and things like that. It kind of speaks to the way these like some people in government, and obviously pointing to myself, big idiot, don't know anything about anything, just speculation here. Like Nate's disclaimer. These people in the government or in big corporations who like they think that minimum wage is enough, or that this money is like the $600 or $1,400 is enough for us, but it isn't, and they're just so out of touch with what the people actually need. But it's the like literally the minimum they can do, and as long as they're doing the minimum, that's fine by them.
Right.
It's
like
minimum they can.
Yeah, they're lowering their evaluation for everyone.
Yes.
Right. The key, as far as they're concerned, I imagine, again, falling in line with the same disclaimers, but it's the minimum they can do without facing massive backlash. And just ride that line of, we can get away with this.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now, Evan, I'm really interested to hear your take on this, because I'm just very interested to see what you think of all this conversation.
In terms of what? If
in terms of government or large corporations, maybe putting on a facade, whether that is the amount of money to keep people happy, or saying somebody is essential for their own PR and for their own value.
How can I like say this loudly enough? I'm just gonna put the microphone like basically on my mouth.
This is
You sound really clear now.
You sound really good. You should be doing this whole time.
Yeah. Correct. 100%. Absolutely. This like 100%, because the profit that these major corporations are gaining is off of the labor and exploitation of the workers. I mean, like, just like point blank, right?
Yep.
It's so let's like take like Amazon, for example.
Okay.
We know that in so many of these factories, that the conditions are truly horrific. Like truly awful. There was a story of a worker who was pregnant, and she was forced to lift her arms over her head multiple times, and do other in physically intensive labor activities, and unfortunately that led to the miscarriage of her child, right? And an intense corporation like Amazon that is time and time again against giving their workers proper pay, proper benefits, proper working conditions,
proper bathroom breaks.
I mean, something so basic to humanity, and they won't even give that. And then to pair that with this like really positive PR campaign that is literally a smile, right? Like that's there. No, I cannot believe that they are valuing human life. I cannot believe that they are valuing the life of their workers, because at the end of the day, they make money off of the, like I said, off of the labor of their workers. So it benefits them to squeeze
the vaccine.
Yeah. No, I can't. I can't believe, and we can see this too, like in the healthcare industry as well. We call all of our healthcare industry workers heroes, and we clap for them. Yeah, at the beginning, if we remember correctly, like a lot of what the healthcare workers wanted was for people to stay home, and they needed the materials to do their job properly. So instead of funding them, instead of supporting them, we were simply doing like a facade of heroes, right?
And then it became, oh, you want us to clap out a window for you? Oh, I can do that. That's easy.
Exactly.
I was also more interested in what you find gives you self-worth, and a little bit different from like just targeting corporations and vaccine, but even more basic of what makes you feel worthy, not even in society, but to those around you and more personally to yourself.
Thor style.
Yeah, because I didn't want to just focus it on this person's society, because it's not quantifiable how important a person is, because to their children, they're the most important thing in the world, but to somebody all the way across the country who never seen this person, why do they matter? Something along the lines of that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's interesting to talk about the distinction or lack thereof between like self-worth and self-esteem.
Mm-hmm.
I think those are two important things to talk about, especially when talking about worth in society, because many times, and you probably can experience this, that if you have a higher self-esteem, you believe in yourself more or enough to believe that you have a higher self-worth in a society, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I just think it's difficult for a society, especially a society living through a pandemic, to have people who are deemed essential have low self-esteem because of their. I guess I don't really know where I'm going with this, but it's difficult. Does anyone understand what I'm trying to get
Yeah,
at?
sure.
But I'm trying to talk outside of the pandemic and whose society is considered
Sure.
essential, because yeah.
Well, I guess we talked about how for some of us, and Jacob Novak, how we the things that we create give us uh, sort of our own feeling of self-worth, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and I do want to say this might be jumbled, but to speak candidly, for people, and I know you're not talking about the pandemic specifically, but the pandemic accentuates this feeling of low self-esteem and self-worth for people who might be struggling with things like depression and anxiety. And what I find helps in that case is not necessarily thinking about the things that you produce that give you self-worth, but the connections you have with people, and thinking about, with your family, your friends, and your community, and just thinking about those, personal relationships that can help give worth to yourself, I guess is a way to put that. Yeah, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, it totally does.
Yeah, if you're selfishly altruistic, right? It honestly just makes you feel better. Truly, like so. Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to think of because maybe like onto Jacob's point is that I'm trying to think of like what would bring me self-worth if people weren't around, right? Because a lot of it comes back to being extremely social, right? Because we're social creatures, and trying not to derive my self-worth from others. And so I'm trying to be like, okay, if I'm on that like tiny little desert island, right, and it's me, what is going to fulfill my life? And quite honestly, like right now, what's coming to mind is just experiencing the present moment as much as possible.
That and potentially being successful in your day. If you say you're going to do something and you go out and do it, whether there's people around you or not, I think that holds a lot of value to yourself, and you can you end the day on a success, right? And I think that is huge. And you do not need to be near groups of people or near anyone in particular for that, right? maybe.
Yeah. If
Mhm.
a tree falls in a forest and no one's around to hear it, it does make a sound.
Sure does.
Right.
Mr. Nate, can you define success without people?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
If you, the way I define it, and the way that I like to look at it is, if I set something up, if I say I'm going to do something and I complete that, that was successful. So it does not matter if there's other people involved, because success for me is deep down in my heart and my whole being, knowing that I completed something to the fullest extent it could be completed. That's successful. And it doesn't matter if you say that's successful or not, because deep down I know. And if you don't complete that to the fullest extent and you think you did, but you don't, your gut will tell you that you didn't. That's the way that we're made, right?
It's a very physical
Yes.
reaction. Yeah.
Yeah. And even the steps along the way to that point of completion. And like if I'm go through a day and I get to the end of it, I'm like, all right, I wrote a couple pages of the chapter I'm working on, or I rode my bicycle for a good amount of time, but I'd like to go further tomorrow. It's still a step of I can look back on this as a positive intention fulfilled.
Yeah.
More to come, but you're plugging away.
That's why goals are so important for us to continue to be successful, right?
Yeah. And just giving yourself benchmarks that you know you can hit, because that makes the larger goals much more manageable.
Which is why I think the most successful people out there aren't relying on other people's applause when they contribute or complete something.
Mm-hmm.
It's the cherry on top.
Sure is.
Right.
Sure is.
But yeah, that's why I wanted to discuss, and I'm glad that each one of you had a different opinion of what your self-worth was and where you derive that from, along with that society can't necessarily determine for another person who is who's actually considered important.
Sure.
And I think that's really cool, and it's great to hear all your different opinions on that.
If we all had the same answer, that would probably mean life is a lot sadder for a lot of people.
Oh yeah, totally. And I mean, we're all very similar people, but yeah, we completely have different ideas of what it means to be fulfilled in life.
Right.
So yeah, let's do last call. This is kind of get around our usual banter of talking about random things. And is there any cool things that happened recently to you guys?
Well, I can't talk about WandaVision for 2 weeks in a row. I mean, I can, but I won't.
So I finished this book called Probable Impossibilities by Alan Lightman. And it was a lot, but the one thing that is coming to mind is, and I'm probably gonna fuck this up, but so life in the universe is predicted to last around like 300 billion years, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's like as much time as it takes for atoms to hold together, pretty much. And then after that, like things will just disperse. But like it's thought that with the Big Bang, it was created like in a like -10 to the power of like 82 like ifs of a second. So the reverse of that is like how long like the universe will be around before it like comes back again. So the idea is like, okay, all matter and life in the universe will be around for 3 powers of 10, but the universe as itself will be around for 82 powers of 10, which is really, I don't know, like at first it was like really kind of terrifying to think of, like, oh shit, like we're really like we're really only here for like a hot second and then we're gone. But it's also kind of like beautiful, right? Because it means that because we have so little time, that we should honestly just make the best of it.
Nike, just do it.
Full license to go for
Do
it. There you go.
And it's
Evan, I think that was the biggest YOLO I've ever heard you say.
That's what it was. That's what it was. Yeah, in 298 billion years from now, we're not going to exist. So might as well live it up, baby.
Right.
Honestly, guys, YOLO.
Indeed.
and it's kind of beautiful too. We're kind of, we will kind of live into infinity because the atoms that make up you and I, when we die and our bodies decay, our atoms will still be around, right? And they will become part of something. So we still got 300 billion years to go, guys. No rush.
There you go.
It'll be interesting to see how our self-worth evolves.
I'll probably show
well, that's sort of an interesting connection there, right? That you look at this whole big, terrifying, grand scheme of things, and some people's reaction is to think, well, what's the point? And the sort of parallel to that, flipped around the other side, is you get to decide what the point is and make of that whatever within your means you feel like making it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
I think a lot of people need to hear that. A lot of people need to hear
Yeah.
that. That's I'm so happy you said that, because especially now, quarantined and stuff, we're not waiting till it's over. Continue living your life, but live in a safe way and try to find things that you wouldn't have done previously, and still be creative and stuff like that. That's so important.
This is, of course, not supporting the people that say that we need to live our life and then go to
No.
party. No. We're not supporting that.
Then you start encroaching on other people's. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm more so thinking like in a safe way in your own house or wherever you are. Continue to live a life and try to be creative in a safe way that doesn't. You're not just waiting for the pandemic to end, right?
Yeah.
You still have to live, and you still have to do things that make yourself not just a potato.
Yeah. Which leads actually into something that I've enjoyed this week, if I may take that segue.
Yeah.
Of course.
Which is that throughout this pandemic, stuck largely at home, one of the things I've done to sort of entertain and stimulate myself mentally is to pick up Duolingo, as I know.
Yes,
Jacob
dear.
mentioned.
Yeah.
And I've been working with Irish Gaelic for the hell of it.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah, I saw
Which
the
is-
loading screen keeps saying a lot of people are learning Irish. I was like, maybe I should learn Irish.
Yeah. It's crazy, and who knows if I'll ever use it, but it's a good challenge. Yeah. And this week, I've been trying to do a little bit every day, and I've this week done a little more than that just to get back into gear a little bit.
That is awesome. If that tells you anything about Sam, that's all you need to know. He's the type of person to pick Gaelic to learn, which is awesome. I think that's amazing.
This is Can we all follow each other on Duolingo? Because I know Jacob and I follow each other, but I think that should be cool to see.
Yeah.
Everybody doing it.
I need to follow 2 more people for my
names.
for the achievement.
Yeah, I'll send it to Sam.
So do I. Yeah. We should exchange tags.
Yeah. Gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll send that to you.
Nate, you and I can resist.
Yeah.
Sorry that we're bettering ourselves.
You sure are. You sure are. So today I drank Miller High Life, as good brew crew fashion, just tell what I drank. And what else?
Do you want to should we use this platform to making an announcement?
I think we can. Make an announcement, because I think there's folks on this platform who might be interested in joining us for a guest appearance. So Jacob Novak, what are we talking about here?
Oh, I thought you were going to do it.
No, it's you.
Well, Nate and I are starting another podcast called Write That Down. where we're talking about basically our experiences in video and writing and film and just our creative identities as a whole, and talking about our processes as normal people just struggling through it like everybody else, being people who haven't quote unquote made it. And so we're starting up a podcast about all that. Yeah, write that down. Launching this coming Thursday.
Whoa, that's so soon.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah,
Literally.
I didn't heard anything about
my
this.
Yeah, it's been relatively DL, but
Uh-huh.
for no reason
Right.
in particular.
So
Yeah, how long have you been planning it for?
A couple weeks now, I think.
Yeah,
Nearing on 2 weeks. I think we're looking for potentially a more professional sounding podcast. Not
More
saying
professional
Brew Crew
than
isn't
this.
professional, but there's something very special about this that we have here at the Brew Crew.
yeah,
We're looking to actually have conversations, specifically finding the niche, the people out there who maybe can connect well with us who are just a step above amateurs, instead of looking to YouTube for professionals and such to connect with us, because we're still out there trying to continue to learn and trying to get to that mastery level, but we are far from that.
yeah.
And we think that that's something that could be interesting, and for our own professional growth.
Wow.
And hopefully at some point we'll, as Nate mentioned, have some guests that you might notice.
Yeah.
From this here podcast.
So
Wow.
at some point, it's going to become a whole network that's going to have a WandaVision review podcast, a Brew Crew podcast, and a Write That Down podcast, all within one network.
There we go.
The Brutabiga Network.
Exactly.
Oh, gosh.
You're gonna have 3 podcasts to listen to in a week. That's awesome. That's like an every other day endeavor.
Also, just a quick bonus. I also just thought of another cool thing I did this week. I pulled out my trombone for the first time in like a year and a half.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And that was fun. Just trying to get back into it, and even though I can't play anywhere or perform with anyone, I have arrangements that I could play and just record by myself for fun. So trying to work my way back up. So
Wow, that's awesome.
yeah.
You've encouraged me to pick up the old trumpet, so maybe I'll do that this week as well.
There you go.
As soon as it's warm enough, Nate, we should meet in the park with horns.
Dude, we are totally going to meet in the park with horns.
Oh, dude. I might have to drive up from Ohio for that.
You
There
absolutely
you go.
should.
Do it. Yeah.
Everyone, we can just do a jam in Orchard Park.
Yeah.
Little jazz sesh.
Little
yeah.
jazz sesh, yeah.
We'll get Owen with the triangle.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
We'll get Evan a keyboard.
Yeah.
No, I'll bring my violin.
Oh, we got a
Oh,
violin.
right.
Yeah.
Perfect.
There we are.
That way we're a classy
Yes.
jazz group.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
gonna
Jazz
get
violin.
Jacob Latour. What are we giving you, Jacob? A drum set? A bass?
What?
Euphonium at home.
Euphonium.
Euphonium? Yeah, I don't think we need that for our band. So
If you could bring the drum
I'm,
set, I'd really appreciate it.
High class. High class. It's better than the trombone. So I play
Okay.
both.
This is a
Ease
fight
up there,
between
buddy.
Jacob 1 and Jacob 2. Well, I think unless there's something else for last call, we should probably wrap up this show.
Yeah. Did you have anything else you wanted to say, Jacob?
No, that was it. I'm glad we kind of went over all the topics I had envisioned talking about. So yeah, this was really nice, and I don't know, it made me feel good, even though a lot of it was definitely existential, like you're saying, Jacob, and was uncomfortable to talk about. I'm glad we did.
Yeah.
I was definitely a little scared at the beginning about like where we were gonna go with this.
Yeah.
Oh, are you talking about the God Committee and who?
Yeah.
That's
So
interesting.
picture this. You're God.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah, well, thank you
Oh,
for
yeah.
bringing that topic, Jacob. That was great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
Who's hosting next week?
I think we're gonna have to do
Oh.
some internal. No drum roll. I mean, we.
It might be my turn.
I think it is.
Yeah.
All right.
Unless-
So next week and on
Yeah.
the Brew Crew, Jacob Novak
Yeah.
is going to be hosting.
Unless we get someone else in here that hasn't been on in a while. But yeah, look forward to that, I guess.
Yeah.
Do you think it's gonna be serious or a goofy one?
Honestly, I have no idea. You'll just have to tune in and find out.
Okay, should we clink out?
Yeah,
Hell
let's
yeah.
do it.
This was the Brew Crew. Thank you so much for joining us, and hope you listen in next week.
Cheers.
3, 2, 1. Cheers.
Wait.